So we've gone from two Chinese dramas, one American TV show and movie, and now we're going to jump over to Thailand BLs. My favorite anything of 2021, honestly. It's been feeding the junkie in me, the romance junkie in me. Now, I'm sure there are people in the group who are just like, oh my God, you guys talk a lot about like so many gay dramas. And I'm like, you guys should watch them because they're fucking amazing and dramatic. And there's always something problematic that happens. Like, BL dramas are relatively new in terms of television because, like, people are weird and homophobic. So, like, I even think about, like, when I was younger, like, Will and Grace was a show when it started. It wasn't explicit that the one of the male characters was gay. It was like, it's just sort of those like tongue-in-cheek things that we've just always done with television. But somewhere between it starting and ending, it was like, oh no, Jack's gay, you know. So that's, I feel like that's sort of how it feels with BL. So again, like I said, it's a relatively new genre, but because women are the number one, is it with disposable income? Yeah, so we've basically created this. We've basically created this new genre that's making money for everyone. It's making so much money. Countries have to be less homophobic. Just gonna bite my tongue. But the first BL drama I'm here to talk about is titled Bad Buddy series. Bad Buddy, the series, but essentially Bad Buddy. This is on GMM TV, also WeTV. It stars Nanan Kurapat as Pran and Powat as Pat and Pran. And Bad Buddy is basically a story of like a weird take on Romeo and Juliet, kind of, but they are childhood friends who then became neighbors whose parents hate each other. Like, we don't know why they hate each other, but like they hate each other like with a passion. And it might have something to do with business, it might have something to do with like, in my opinion, the level of hate Pat and Pran's parents have for one another better involve a sex tape or a murder. But I know it's going to be something stupid or petty or like they got manipulated by someone else. But like, they have hated each other for like their kids' entire lives. And they're also neighbors. Like, if you hate your neighbor, why are you there for 20 years or whatever? Can you, like, I mean, I guess real estate, it's hard to find a good home. And if you move, that's you admitting defeat, I guess. But like, yo, nah, I will eventually move. I'm not living next to my enemy for like 2 decades. Like, shout out to y'all who can do that. Your mortgage must be really low. Maybe it's a family home. I don't know. But anyway, Pat and Pran's parent hate each other. So the assumption is their kids will also hate each other, but their kids like kind of don't. And Pat and Pran actually become friends in high school, enter like a music contest together. Their parents find out and send Pat away for 3 years. And you're just like, what? And that's sort of how the story starts. Now, one thing that's sort of different about Bad Buddy is, you know how I said earlier that BL dramas, LGBTQ type dramas like these are fairly new and always has something problematic? I would say it's probably because they've gone through like 30 years of like TV growth tropes, whatever you want to call it, in a decade, in my opinion. Not sure about the specific timeline, but when BL started, there was a lot of rape, like, for no reason. You would just be like, oh, jogging down the street, rape. It's like, whoa. And for me, it would almost be like a soap opera where they just felt compelled to put that plot line in there. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. A lot of times it didn't, like a majority of times. Like you're just like, why? But it became a. There was also outside of that. There's also like still the heterosexual gaze in which they would make one male partner super feminine, or just not always like you could tell who the husband was. That's it. But again, they've evolved over the years. I am so happy. Show is well done, super well acted. Essentially, what ends up happening is because their parents hate each other, even though they're not enemies. But them reuniting in college, it just kicks off shenanigans. They're also in rival faculties, and their friends also don't like each other. So their families hate each other, their friends hate each other, and their faculties hate each other, but they like each other. And, it goes from them actually acknowledging their feelings for one another to them being in a relationship surrounded by all these people who hate each other, but they love them. It's a secret relationship. It's a friends to lovers secret relationship, guys. You're jonesing for it, I know. So it's got its flaws, but I am happy overall about its progress. The visibility of those who we normally would not see, especially because it's all around the world. Now you have Korean BLs, you've got Chinese BLs, you've got people seeing things they would never have. Like, there's this one YouTube show where it's basically titled, I think, like 5 Chinese straight guys watch Word of Honor. Like I said earlier, like Word of Honor involves a lot of eye fucking. So it's like 5 straight guys who at first didn't know. And then eventually kind of clicked that they're like, oh, they're like not like sword soulmates. They're like swords. It's adorable. But you get what I'm saying. Like, those are people who would never have gone out of their way to watch a show like this, but watched it because they thought it was one thing and got a blend of things. And that's why I like television. It exposes you to a world you might never have been comfortable enough to seek out on your own, if that makes sense. So, next BL, Don't Say No, the series. This stars... Talk about problematic. No, it's not problematic. There's a part, though. Okay, so this stars Ja, who plays Leo, and it starts First, who plays Fiat. I'm not saying their full names because I was like, that's going to be a struggle, and I don't want to just butcher their last name. So Ja and First play Leo and Fiat. This is 12 episodes. It's completed. This is a sequel to the Tarn Type series. So Tarn Type has had 2 seasons. Tarn Type is super problematic. All the triggers if you're going to go watch that. But I loved it. I loved season 1 more than season 2. Season 2, like the drama with the actors behind the scenes, kind of colored my enjoyment of season 2, but it was still a good production. In season 2, they introduced Fiat and Leo's character. And Fiat, in his introduction in Tarn Type, was the worst possible human being ever. He was the, I'm going to steal somebody else's boyfriend. I don't care what I have to do. Yes, I'm breaking up a happy home. Just like the worst. But the problem was, like, he had a rich best friend who was in love with him. So, like, he'd be like, I need his phone number. And, like, that one who was in love with him would get his number. And, like, he's like, as long as he's happy. And it's like, dude, that's Leo, no. So that was his introduction. The solution to Fiat, who is not like, he's a supporting character in Tarn Type. The solution was one of the male leads, Type, basically is like, spoiler alert, I guess. But his solution was essentially to kidnap Fiat, take him into a hotel, and basically make him think somebody was about to kill him. And then Leo would come in and save him, and that would basically set him straight. Guess what, guys? It did. Because that's what you do. Yeah. So now from there, Leo and Fiat have their own series. I was not going to watch it because I hated Fiat's character. Like, I hated Fiat as a character in Torn Type, and I was just like, fuck him. I don't want to watch this. He's the worst. And then I watched it and I loved it because they took everything that was problematic about Fiat, threw it in the shredder, and he was basically a puppy dog in this. Loved it. But this is also a from friends to lovers as well. Fiat's a bad boy because when he was younger, like his dad kicked him out of the house when he was 8. It was like something had happened and his dad got mad, but essentially let's this sweet 8-year-old boy being like, my dad kicked me out, like legitimately thinking his father kicked him out of that. But somewhere along the line, like Fiat is like, oh fuck, I'm like in love with this dude. But in his head, he doesn't think it can be. So he acts out. He dates other people. He kind of uses that as a substitute for Leo. And Leo lets him, right? Like to Leo, it's like, I will let him do whatever he wants as long as like he stays in my life. And it's like, bro, no. So Don't Say No, the series is basically them at the start of their relationship, navigating that. It's adorably sweet. Like, it's disgustingly sugary sweet. They have a good circle of friends. The couple, for the most part, are healthy, except for the fact that, like, Leo is very protective of Fiat, so he's always there. He's always like, how's my baby? What's my baby doing? Like, yeah, Leo is like the good guy, even though we also have a theory that Leo might either be the consigliere or the godfather. Like, he's the good guy, but he seems like he'd be very comfortable, like, burying a body. And Fiat is just there being adorable. There's no such thing, in my opinion, as a healthy relationship because normal is different to everyone. So I always enjoy characters or shows where the characters are a little bit problematic because everyone is problematic in some ways and how people sort of overcome that. So this show, all that other Torn Type stuff, that's just another life unless you haven't watched that or also want to watch that. If you like problematic characters with all the triggers, go watch it. It's good. And I'm sure there's got to be a review of it with just me on the podcast or with me talking about it in a review with Erle. Don't Say No, the series. It's adorably sweet. Leo is adorably sweet. Everyone wants a boyfriend who is Leo. He is there. He is nurturing. He will make you breakfast. He will bury a body. He will call his friend, whose friend's dad is definitely a gang leader, and make people disappear, but he will also make sure your taxes are paid on time. I love Leo. Okay, so we're going to start off with Dolly and the Cocky Prince. And this is a romantic. Romantic. I don't know what I'm saying like that, guys. I'm like getting silly. But yes, Dolly and the Cocky Prince. It's the story of Mohawk, who basically is like this poor kid who grows up as a market peddler and eventually rise to become like the managing director of their family business. So he goes from like this, like we're introduced to him sort of like as a kid who's like, his dad owns a restaurant with his mom. His mom is very hardworking and his dad is just a philanderer. His mom dies, so he's kind of stuck with his dad, who's like, his dad is funny. His dad is like a good, kind of a good guy, but a horrible father to his son. After his mother dies, he basically marries this terrible woman for his stepmom. Like, this is the kind of, his father is the kind of father who is easily led with his dick at the expense of his family. But the show does a good job in showing him as a human and not as a villain. So I like that. I mean, he's the worst, but you don't hate him like he's black and white, if that makes sense. But you have Kim Min Jae, he plays Muhawk. And then you have Dolly, who is the daughter of an upper class family. Her dad runs an art gallery. She is played by Park Yu Young. And yeah, so he's basically like poor boy, rich kid. And she's like rich kid. Her dad dies, but it's definitely not like he died peacefully. So on the one hand, you have the story of who killed her father being in here, but then you also have the story of her like meeting this dude who is very crass on the surface of things. Like he's the guy who calculates the extra taxes. He's like giving me the extra packets of ketchup. Like he kind of comes off with that vibe, but as you get to know him, you kind of realize why he's like that, and you kind of realize like there's more than that. Like there's more past the surface. Like he's genuine, and you kind of see what has shaped him to become who he is. And he's also at the end of the day also super smart. Wears terrible suits like new money. So it's kind of like that's him, and then you have this pretty, Korean girl whose dad owns an art gallery, and she grows up abroad, and she talks to white people because that's how you've been abroad. And she comes back home, and yeah, she's just like, I'm a rich kid. I work at an art gallery, but she seems like genuine. Most of them would not be genuine, and the story is essentially, I guess, like a debtor's story, romantic comedy, where she owes him money and she will now work off the money for him through her art gallery. And he's very much, like I said, he's a poor kid turned rich. So he's very much about the money. He's like, you guys are an art gallery, but you don't make money. So why are you in business? And this show is hilarious. Like, from beginning to end, like I honestly was not expecting to enjoy the show as much as I did, but the characters are just funny. The situations are funny. Kim Dolly, the female lead, has the villain is believably villainous because he's essentially an insecure ex-fiance. Yeah, he causes a lot of problems. And then you also have like her extended family, but ultimately it's sort of two people getting together that you would normally not expect to get together. The final show, Hellbound, 6 episodes, quick. It's on Netflix. It stars my favorite UIN. He plays this cultish leader by the name of Jung Jin-soo. You've got Kim Young-ju, who plays Min Ye-jin. And this Hellbound is a story of otherworldly beings who appear out of nowhere, basically these gigantic stone smoke monsters who issue a decree, and they're basically like, you are going to die on this day, on this minute, and then they come back on that day and that minute, and they like not just kill you, because it's terrifying. These things just appear out of nowhere. And like if you run, like let's say you run, because what else would you do? It'll like it's like 3 of them, so it's like you're getting jumped. So they will catch you eventually because they are like supernatural beings, but massive. And they will take a person, like smash you on the floor. They will like punch you, like literally pummel you, and like just inflict, like you're dead. Your brain is done, and they'll be beating you up. And at the end, they have like the super move where it's like they all like put their hand on you, and then like they just incinerate you, and you die. So that's Hellbound. But Hellbound is less about like these monsters and I guess you could say these decrees. Like you have Yu Iron's character who basically plays this, I guess you would say he's the preacher, who's like, yeah, these creatures are here because we've sinned as mankind, and these people that die are only getting killed because they've sinned, so don't sin and you'll be fine. There's a twist, I'm not gonna say it here, but this series is less about the monsters and more about how we as humans react to things. I thoroughly enjoyed this show because I like shows that like induce conversations, make you check your moral checkbox, because there are things that happen. Like there's like there's a woman who has a child out of wedlock, and she gets the decree, and people are like, well, it's because she had a kid out of wedlock. And it's like, I don't know if that constitutes, you having three massive monsters beat the shit out of you and incinerate you to death, right? Like, what should what should we, like, where do we draw the line, right? But there are people who think this, right? They're like, oh, she had an abortion, or she had sex out of marriage, and they'll be like, go to hell. And it's like, hell is where, like, you're basically, like, tortured endlessly. And you think those type of people, someone who makes a choice about self, deserves to be in that type of place with people like Hitler. And people are like, yes, which is insane. But yeah, and then this is like, we had conversations about sort of that aspect of it, humanity's reaction to it. It's 2021. If you've been sentient since 2019, I don't. You're hoping humanity has had to have dipped, so this would be pleasant. You've got cops, and I'm trying to. It's so funny initially because it's like you've got these cops and like they're shooting at these monsters, and I'm like, dude, what is your gun? What is your gun going to do against these monsters? Like, what is happening? But it's entertaining. You definitely the plot. The plot is you're not going to see it coming. And I, for one, enjoy a show where I don't see things coming. I've seen too many shows. Even if it's predictable, make it different. And this show definitely does that. So we've got what is ultimately these creatures that show up out of nowhere. We've got URN's character. I love URN. You got. I hope I meet him one day. I genuinely love him. But yeah, so you've got URN's character, who basically is like, these monsters are coming because we as humanity have sinned. So he becomes like this holy figure in like the world. And like, most cults, then there will be like a very violent and aggressive wing that wants to keep everybody in line. So that's a thing. And then you also have sort of like the world changing because, again, they're literal smoke monsters that have come out of nowhere and are killing people. So, like, even if I'm not a religious person, I have eyes and I see these things exist. So it's like, even if I don't believe the bullshit religious side of it, like, monsters. So Hellbound, 6 episodes, season 1. It's on Netflix. Enjoyed it. Not supposedly, it did beat out Squid Game, which I have yet to watch. I'm gonna put that on the list. But yeah, it actually got more ratings more viewers than Squid Game. But even if it didn't, so what? Like, ratings are not the be all end all of what makes a good show. Literally opened this recording with that. So yeah, that is it. Wow. Okay, I think this is pretty good. This is like an hour, 8 shows. These are all shows except for the very first one, Sword Snow Stride, which I have not done a standalone review for. Everything else I have done a review for on the podcast. Like I said, Hellbound, me and LaShonda. Warrior, me and Carly. The Harder They Fall with me and Jawan. Sometimes there are solo episodes, and sometimes I have amazing friends who come on to co-host with me. Like, it's a really great time. So I hope you guys check out the podcast because it's been 7+ years of just great conversations, great reviews of TV shows, music, movies, all of the above. So if you've only watched me on Patreon for a while, check out the podcast. If you've only watched me on YouTube, check out the podcast, everyone. I don't know. It'll be like Big Love, which is like this older show about like a polygamous couples, and like the guy has like a bunch of houses that he bought, but in the center, like, everybody could just come in. So on the outside they look like individual homes, but like their backyards was just like one. I loved it. It was a good show. Big Love, right? Yeah. No, is it Big Love? But it had to be Big Love, yeah. Anyways, that is to say, this is it. I hope you guys have enjoyed me talking about some of these shows. Like, if you have not really been with me on like these Asian shows I've been covering, like I really hope you change your mind and you check out one of them, because any genre you like my jam is like historical fantasy romance comedy type shit, but like anything that is your jam, you will find on the podcast feed. And even on YouTube, I've done other shows where I've done full in-depth analysis on Yangshi and Rui and just like Chinese empresses of China. Like I said, music reviews, box reviews, reveals, just a multitude of stuff. Like, and I want to make sure you guys get this and you guys enjoy it, because I enjoy talking about this. And these are just good shows that you should check out. And you can watch them. It's so easy to watch anything nowadays. And why wouldn't you? So that's all I've got, guys. Again, like I said, happy holidays. I hope you guys are all safe. You are vaxxed and you laugh. Because what else can you do right now? But yeah, that's it. See you guys on the other side.